What's good, my Menace Society? It is your host with the most, Shadow Loke, back at you with another video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and are subscribed to the channel. It's absolutely free. That is how you help my channel get into the algorithm. Highly appreciate if you go ahead and do that. It don't cost nothing. Now, what I wanted to get into was actually I had seen a video that Mo's TV reloaded, uploaded onto his channel. If you guys want, you guys could go scope out his channel. He's a brother, right? But he made a video talking about black and brown unity. Right, and he's not the only individual who I have seen put out a video about black and brown unity, right, coming from the brothers perspective, right. I seen Odie and Slim, talked about, a video about that, and several others, right, and also, Red Supreme TV. But there's several, brothers out there who have put out, videos about black and brown unity. And but no matter which individual I'm watching or which video we're discussing, it all tends to be roughly the same thing, right? But it's never about black and brown unity or the problem between black and brown. Like, what exactly is the issues, right? Or why can't we come together, or why there's this dysfunction? But it's never about black and brown. The issues that they bring up, or the subject that they talk about, is about Southerners and blacks. But they throw the Southern politics and the way that the Southerners, the South Side, the Sureños, how they run their program onto raza and Mexicans or Latinos in general, like the brown in general. When the brown, the raza, is completely different from the Southerners. Yes, the Southerners are raza, but it's not the same thing as civilians who are raza, because civilians that are raza are completely different. They don't live by the Southerners' way of thinking, way of living, way of carrying themselves. They're two completely different groups. As a matter of fact, civilians don't even like the cholos, right? These are hardworking individuals who don't care about another politics and gangster bullshit and gangster all that and that. So it's two completely different things. But yeah, whenever they want to give their point across when it comes to why the brothers shouldn't trust the brown, they always talk about, well, in prison they side with these individuals, or in prison is like this, in prison is like that, or the Southerners, tend to do this, or then you have these individuals. Yeah, but if we're talking about brown and black, why are we talking about Southern politics, street politics, gang politics, the gangster way of them carrying themselves, though? If that's completely different from this group, right? We're talking about the brown. The brown has nothing to do with the Southern politics. You know what I mean? The raza doesn't live by those rules, or that way of thinking, or that way of carrying themselves. They're not a part of the gangster life. They don't care for none of that. They don't care about how they carry themselves or what their rules are. They do what they do. Period. And I noticed that it's mostly individuals that come from, California, mostly the southern portion, when it comes to the brothers that, tend to have this perspective when it comes to black and brown, because I see in other places, it's a better relationship, right? And, those brothers don't mind the presence of brown, or don't mind brown and black unity, right? But it tends to be the individuals that are focused here or have at least done time in California or the southern portion, right? That have this, not a grudge, right? But this way of seeing things, right? And I can understand why. Trust me. You know what I mean? Um, because of the whole thing. And another thing that I see, that a lot of people like to do when it comes to the brother side. No disrespect. I'm not talking about all brothers. I'm just talking about, specific individuals that I have seen, right? Because, I know how one carries himself doesn't reflect in behalf of everybody else, right? That's another thing that people tend to do, right? Just because they had a bad experience with somebody from a different ethnicity, they tend to hold that grudge on the whole entire ethnicity just because of their experiences. When that individual doesn't speak in behalf of the group, no individual can speak in behalf of the group. Individuals can only speak in behalf of themselves and can only reflect their own teachings and not the teachings of the whole entire group, because we're not all the same, right? But if there's one thing, I don't do is that, right? But if what I have seen that some brothers, like to do or spin it, right, is that it's normally one-sided. When I have uploaded on my channel, right, videos of, blacks dissing Mexicans and writing, F wetbacks and F taco eaters and all that, just as much as you see the Mexican gangs, putting, F the N words and yada yada yada, right? But this it's just to aggravate the other side when it comes to the whole gangbanging shit, right? It's not It's not that they actually see it that way, right? But they're just trying to antagonize the other group, and what better way than this, right? So it's more of a street thing, right? But I get it. If people that don't live that life or don't come from this world, to them it's just gonna come off as racist, right? Instead of what it actually is, because in LA, in Southern California, we don't have a racial issue. There's a gang banging issue. These individuals go at it with each other and attack each other for gang reasons, um, for beefs and being their ops and etc., right? Never because they're black. um, you know what I mean? But like I said, that's when we're talking about the street culture, the street and the gangbanging lore of stuff, right? But if we're talking about brown and black, if we're meaning the subject how it's written, because if not, it should just be black and Southerners or black and Southsiders or black. You get what I mean? But when we're saying brown or Latinos, you're involving Latinos in the raza, right? When there's no issues there, right? The issues is with the politics that you guys have with these individuals, not with the raza. The raza doesn't have any politics. You get what I'm saying? So the raza is not the same thing as the Southerners, right? But these individuals tend to always do that. I talked about it with Red Supreme, did it on his live where he was critiquing the protest and everything like that. Like, oh, they want us to now, side with them and back them up. But in prison, what about there, huh? They want to side with the whites. Fuck them. And it's like, what does these individuals that are protesting right now, who have no gang ties, who don't even care about that gangster world, who don't even like these individuals, because the way they are, what do they have to do with the prison politics and the street politics, bro? That you're over here saying fuck them. Why? The fuck do they have to do with the politics and how shit is ran in there? They don't care for none of that. That's not their ideology. That's not their beliefs. It's not their way of thinking. So why hold that on them? Just because how you see these individuals and their politics. See, that has nothing to do with the raza or the brown, right? So when we're critiquing, then say the Southerners, bro. Then say the Southsiders. Don't say the raza. Don't say the brown. Because they have absolutely nothing to do with none of this. You know what I mean? And to try to hold the raza accountable for gangster rules and gangster politics is crazy in itself, bro. Now we're trying to hold, regular civilians to the street, to the same standards as a gang member. That's crazy. So I have never seen an actual video where people are actually discussing the actual brown and black, right? It's always black and Southern. But overall, I just wanted to get my perspective on that. What are your thoughts? Leave it